Okay, welcome back. Trying to make full screen here. New button there. Okay, so far we have made a bunch of pictures and nothing's really moved. Today I'm going to show you how to make things move on the screen. Now, with that said, I have to introduce a few more things. So just like before, I made a class called Moving Shapes, and I'll call it, we'll say extends, lowercase e, extends applet. Okay. Now the applet should ask for me to import, so we could import a bunch of stuff that applets have. Well, the method that we've done so far is public void paint. Well, there's a whole bunch of other methods that actually Java has that we need for applets to work. You have public void init, or initialize is actually what it's for. I usually say init just to think I'm funny. And then that's got two brackets. So that method there is public void initialize. Then you have public void start. This will start the computer to keep looking to see if there's something new that needs to be done. Then we have start. We're going to have stop. Public void stop. Now, all these methods you're going to need in almost every applet to make these motion. Games are a little more fun when things move on the screen, so we'll make things move. You'll need all these methods. Public void paint. Now, this is the one we've done a few times already. Graphics G. Okay, now we need to import graphics, and then there's one more. I did not hit import. Okay, the last one you need is public void run. So these are going to be the 5 methods that you're going to have almost every time. Initialize. So let's start with the top one. Initialize. This is the first method. So when you run the program, this is the first method that goes. And what this one usually does, it does 2 basic things. You do set size of the applet. So the size, let's go 800 pixels wide by 400 pixels for the height. And then let's set the background. Set background, new color, and I'm going to make up some random numbers. You can make whatever numbers you want. Let's say 123, 47, 290, no, gotta be less than 255, so 223. And now I need to import color. Okay. So when I run this, what pops up should be, there it is. I guess I have a purplish looking color there. So we quit this. Go back to the other screen. Okay, so that's what you do in initialize typically. You set the size and you set the background. Now, inside of start, you're going to do a few things, and this is going to take me a long time to explain. And when I come back, I'll explain a lot more of this. But you have what's called thread. That's inside the computer, inside the processor. There's threads that kind of tell the computer what it's thinking. And the best way to say this is, like, in the other programs, you had nothing set as thread. So what it did was it ran through it once and it was done. Well, a thread keeps looping through and it keeps going. Is there something new you want me to do? The processor keeps asking the program, is there something new you want me to do? And that's set up by doing a thread. And there's my most basic way of explaining that. I could talk more about that later. So thread is something Java made. So I make a variable name. I'll just call it th. Send it for thread, and then you'll do new thread this. Don't forget the this. The this is very important, and it's very abstract to explain it. So I'm just going to ask you to accept it right now that you just type the word this, and then th start. So it's kind of looping. It's telling the computer, hey, keep going, keep going. Now notice there's a red line here. It's telling me there's an error here, but there's no error. There's nothing wrong with this. What we need to do is now we want the computer to keep looping this. We need to kind of tell the program, hey, things are gonna be changing a little. What you have to add on after extends applet is implements runnable. Kind of telling the program to tell the computer, hey, this is going to be running and things are going to be changing, and the thread is part of it that makes all this happen. So the big mistakes that people forget is when there's a red line under there, they're like, I can't find this error message. I typed it exactly how you said. Well, you have to make sure you put implements runnable. And also inside, after thread, you have to put the word this. Okay, now inside a stop. Actually, rarely, nothing goes in stop. We don't use stop in this class at all. So you can just avoid that one. Now paint. We've done paint quite a bit. So let's make a g.setColor. I'm going to make up a new color. Again, random numbers. I always like making random colors. 244, 231, 2. Don't know what color that's going to make. Hopefully it's not too, it doesn't blend in. Hopefully it's contrasting quite well. And then I'm going to make a rectangle. G.fill rectangle. Let's make it at 200, 200. Now the width will be 40. The height will be 40. So it's a rectangle at pixel spot 200, 200, over 40, down 40. And it's going to be whatever color this is. So let's just see what I've got drawn here. Okay, a yellow rectangle in about the middle of the screen on the purple background. So that works out perfect. Go back. Okay, so now inside of run, here comes some new stuff. And again, I'm going to ask you to accept a bunch of things I'm telling you just to paste or just to put into your screen. So here's one of them. And you type it once, and then every time afterwards you look at a previous program. This tells the thread what sort of the current thread is going, set the priority of the thread. And there's a bunch of different priorities. Well, your computer's doing a whole bunch of things. This is not the only thing your computer is doing at once. Maybe you're even playing music while running this. Well, there's priorities inside your computer, and the priority of this program is a minimum priority. We don't want to shut down the graphics. Maybe you put this to maximum priority, and maybe the computer decides your program's more important than updating the screen. So this is actually very small minimum priority. You won't even notice, even if it delays, you won't even notice it. So just always put that thread.current.setPriority, thread.minimum priority. Then the next thing you put, while true. So this is a while loop. And it's not even getting a variable. It's just saying while whatever in here is true, do what's between these brackets. There's no variable. It will never get switched to false. It will always be true. This is a way of making the computer keep looping forever. So in theory, as long as I have my computer on and I run this program, this whatever goes in here will happen forever. Okay, so now I need to back up for a second. Up here, this line 28, right where we drew this rectangle, here's the spot I drew, 200. That's considered just a number, a constant, 200. Well, what I'm going to do is right above public void initialize, I'm going to make what's called a global variable. We kind of talked about this earlier this year. A global variable right here, and I'm going to say int, let's say x rectangle. The x position of the rectangle, I'm going to say that's 200. And what I'm going to do is now line 30, instead of saying 200 there, I'm going to say x rectangle. And I'm also going to make another global variable, int y rectangle, 200. And instead of having this 200, I'm going to make this y rectangle. Now, why am I doing this? Well, this position, the rectangle, I'm going to make the ball, the square, move to the right of the screen. That always happens in the run method, and actually more specifically happens right here inside the while loop. So I want to be able to move this rectangle in this while loop. So I need what's a global variable, so I could use this variable both in Paint to draw it and also in the run method to move it. So here's how you move it. I want the rectangle, new position, to equal the old position plus 1 pixel. So this is saying take the old position, add 1, and this is going to be the new position. And then I wanted to draw this rectangle again. What I type is I type repaint. So create a new position, now repaint that shape. And it'll go into the paint method and it will set the color, draw the rectangle. Now, what you have to type next is, again, a line that you could just type once, get it right, and then you could copy and paste this later on. It's try, and then you put thread dot sleep 20, and then you need something here that's called catch parentheses interrupted exception EX. Now I'm going to ask you again to trust a little bit of just what I'm doing and kind of go with it for a little while. Some of you that are really wanting to know what's going on, I suggest you go search the internet. There's a lot of people explaining this besides me. But here's what's happening. It's saying try this. If you could find the thread, put it to sleep for, I think this is 20 milliseconds. Something so. So if you wanted to move really slow across the screen, you make this a bigger number. Put it to sleep for 200 milliseconds, 2,000 milliseconds. You want it to move fast across the screen? You put the thread to sleep for 2 milliseconds. That thing will zoom right across the screen. Now, this is something, a nuance to Java. Try this, but if you can't do that, you have to have what's called a catch. But this will always be able to, it will always be able to do it, so there's nothing in here to do. And if you take programming in college next year, if you take the IB class next year, you work a little more with try and catches. It's a way to catch any mistakes that are going on. So right now, if I run this, this should hopefully work. So I turn on, and there goes the yellow rectangle moving across the screen at 20 milliseconds. It's repainting every 20 milliseconds. These Macs are so quick, you don't even notice that it's repainting. The older PCs occasionally, or if you have an old laptop, you're going to end up seeing possibly some flashing of the screen because it's having trouble because it's not as good a processor. Let's say I wanted to move it down the screen. Well, instead of that, I do Y rectangle. And now, if I run it, now the rectangle moves down the screen. If I want to move up the screen, instead of plus 1, I do -1. Moves up the screen, because remember the numbers, it's opposite of what you're used to in math. 0, 0 is the top left corner, and that will actually cause some mistakes later on. Let's say I want to see it go really fast backwards. 2 milliseconds, X rectangle. So to go to the left, you do X rectangle -1, and remember I switched it to 2 here. Sleep is 2, so it's a little faster. Run this, hopefully it doesn't go too fast. Shoots off the screen real fast. So your program today, what I want you to do is, I want you to make this program. I want you to copy this, go through it, try to understand it the best you can. Ask somebody, please work in groups, please work with other people. Ask somebody in the class that you think understands a little better than you do if you make mistakes. There's a lot of little new semicolon to new place.